a data analytics insight or analytic program or business analytics and so forth, as long as it's actually related to analytics. Now, a lot of students may be actually asking the questions like, your questions start on the week 1. So I don't actually understand what is big data or what is business analytic or any kind of business processes. I understand, and I also aware that, you see, the question starts on week 1. You have not even started a chapter yet. You don't even actually understand what is analytic is all about. It's fine. Your assignment 1 is actually based more on your understanding. We're going to see the group of people. That's why we don't put it as an individual, we put it in a group. So the group of people will need to do discussion to understand what is business analytics, the processes in business, the architecture used in enterprises. No doubt some of these ideas already have been learned in your ITC 101. That's why you see the ITC 101 is one of the requirements that you must have. All right. Now, why do we actually need QBM 101? In the other QBM 101 is where you learn about statistics. You're talking about how the process of what I call that, an accounting works, where they actually have good profit or they have bad profit from the graph and so forth. So all these have comes into the knowledge of what we call business analytics. All right. So you need to know about the role of a business analyst, how they actually do this and so on. All right. So these are some of the strategic moves that you need to understand how you can actually help. So for us to see whether you actually know about what is the business analysts do for analytics and so forth, this is where we captured in your assignment group. You see the group of people, we do not know your level of understanding. Even you as the group member, you do not know your member have what kind of understanding in analytics. That's why we want you guys to have a group discussion and then create the results based on that. So this is where the question is very straightforward and very general. We do not actually require you to do intensive kind of research of analytics and so forth for assignment group, right? That's why we only wanted you to evaluate the pros and cons of the current business process. Like for instance, whether that current business process, do they apply analytics or not? I always like to use the we call that the company McDonald's. Why? Because McDonald's is one of the well-established company who have actually applied quite a lot of system into their environment. Okay, let's put into the pros and cons of their current business process. Like for instance, you can actually order online. Okay, they have their application, the APP, so that you can log in and apply. But not just only that, even if you walk into their outlet, their McDonald's outlet, they have kiosks that you can actually use rather than you just go to the cashier and ask the cashier to order your food, right? You see, there are so many options for customer to do. So all these are their business processes. You can have the face-to-face with the cashier. You can use the kiosk. You can even use the APP to order. You can even go to their table and sit at their table, which table that you want to select, and you see there's a QR code on the table. And then you can scan the QR code and start ordering from there as well. You see, they have been actually established and they actually move on to have a better and better kind of services to customer. So where they actually get all this is where they actually uses the analytics, right? Like for instance, initially they actually only have face-to-face at the cashier. You have to order from the cashier because a lot of people are making complaint that the queue are too long and then the cashier can't actually understand the word I say, the way I order, they actually give me the wrong order and so forth. With all this information, that's where they analyze to make a better way to serve the customer. You see, all these have become part and parcel of the processes and also analytics, all right? Now, Let's look into the careless mistake that most of the students have done before. I didn't say that it must be you, all right? I'm talking about in general, okay, not just only you, but there are a lot of students, including students in my local here in Malaysia. Also, we do faces the same issue, all right? So let's see what we actually have in store here. In grouping, that's the first careless mistake a lot of students have done. No group. Why? Some students forgotten to group. Some students say, yes, I already have group, but then they did not actually go to the system, the LMS there, and put in their group. Now, remember just now that when we go through the LMS is that you must have grouping, then you must do the declaration. So if the other word, if you do not do any grouping, you are not in the system. And if you are not in the system would not be able to identify you. And even after you have submitted, you have no place to submit. So normally what students do is that when there is no place to submit, they go to their lecturers. If they can't find the lecturers, they go to the admin and then submit to the admin. So what did they submit? They will submit hard copy. So when they submit hard copy, we are not accepting hard copy. We only want soft copy. That's why you see sometimes students email to the lecturers. Yeah, I receive email from students as well and telling me that, oh, I do a late submission and I cannot submit. Can I email to you to accept it and so forth? So this is why I told students that, no, I'm not accepting it. You have to talk to your lecturers. You have to consult your lecturers. If your lecturer accept it, then you go and submit into the late submission. See, all these are the process. If a student do not have a grouping, we cannot give them marks because why? There is no place for us to put marks for them. All right. So this is one of the careless mistakes students done. Second, not listed or enrolled in LMS. I also have students where I don't know where it come from. All right. It's not listed in the LMS, that student's name, but then they are submitting together with the group. No. They actually enrolled in MGT 212 or not. You and I do not know, right? Even you as a group member, you may not know that whether that particular student 212 or not. You have to double confirm with that. That's why you see, if you did not enroll in LMS, you're unable to do your grouping. You see, all these are linked. We'll be able to identify where the issue comes from, how, and so on. All right. Now, did not register to the program. Yes, I even have students where it's not listed in the CRM as well. Not just on the LMS, it's not enrolled, but the program itself is also not registered. Or the other way around. I have it in the LMS, but then not in the CRM. Or I have it in CRM, but it's not in the LMS. So this is where we be able to identify that the students are actually not in the group or not in the program and so forth. Now, this is where you have to identify them and you actually have to tell your lecturers, right? Your lecturers will actually liaise with your admin department and admin will going to look for whether the student is still in the program or not in the program, right? So these are some of the mistakes that we actually see. This is much more interesting because that particular student appears in two groups. And this is the reason why we actually say that we wanted it to be digitized. Okay. When you have grouping, once you've done the grouping, you can only appear in one of the group. Now, this applies when the student did not submit digital, but they submit hard copy, right? And then it turns out that this particular student appears in two different groups. So how do we have to give the marks to the student? Now, I also encountered before two same students, but then two different student ID. Yeah, identical name with two different ID. But what I'm referring here now is that I have encountered before two different ID students are in two different groups. All right, so this is where you have to be identifying your group member as well. All right. Now, second that we have to look into is the analysis of issue. I think you know where this comes from, right? In your assignment, okay, we did show it in your what you call the rubric, that what we actually looking into and so on. So your analysis of report is, this is where we actually looks into your how you actually analyze the issue. Like for instance, your question paper itself, you'll be able to identify this. Okay, let me show you this. Now, this is your rubric for your assignment group. The first one, background, I'm not going to discuss because most of you have done it nicely and there's nothing wrong. The second is your analysis of issue. So the analysis of issue is, this is where we're able to identify the issue that actually faced by the company and so forth. All right. So in here, so we already identify by telling you that in the analysis of issue, what you're supposed to do. Okay, things like all this is actually being listed and so on. All right. So let's go back to your slides here. Okay, let's see. The current business processes or system used, for example, SCM, CRM, HRM, etc. Okay, I'm not asking you to do all. A lot of students come and approach me and ask me, sir, do I need to write CRM, SCM, HRM, and AIS and so forth, or all this into my session of analysis of issue? I put down there as for example. For example means that you can pick one or two to put into your answer. All right. So you no need to put every single one into it. Why? Because you only have 2005 wording to go through. You have no time to put in all. Okay. Why I say so that you have no time to put in all? Because you have other section that you need to encounter, have to put in and so forth. Now, the same thing goes for the current business environment, especially if you are from what we call marketing major. When you see business and environment, they will actually go for either SWOT analysis or what we call the Porter 5 Forces or the 4 Ps and so on. Now, in here, the current business environment are looking into things like what they actually have. We are actually investigating, like for instance, the CRM, what kind of application that they have and what is the pros and cons. Like for instance, the examples I've mentioned just now, the McDonald's, is that how they know that the customer are not happy with them. They have this CRM where the customer will put down that things like they don't like the queuing up and so forth. We queue too long and then you have to wait and so on. So this is where after they have found out that issue and so on, then they move on to kiosks. Now, how do we know all these? We have not actually gone through any of the chapters in the syllabus yet. Yes, this is where your lecturer should have already informed you that go through articles. Read some articles, find some articles where the company have problem, have issue, whether they have related to analytics or not. So this is the part that you actually need to do some research. That's why in the in this, what you call the group assignment, you need to analyze, you need to do some research from the articles. Okay, so from the articles, you'll be actually understand that what they have done, and you'll be able to see that some of them are actually having issue facing with CRM or SCM. SCM is the what we call that supply chain management, right? And then HRM will be the HR issue. Now, let me tell you, like the case I told you about McDonald's, they actually have all this. They even have SCM, they have CRM, they have HRM, they even have AIS, they have also APP and so forth to look into the payment and so on. See, all this is part and parcel of today business environment, their process, and also the system actually being used. Now, when the next question says that evaluate the pros and cons of the potential issue highlighted based on the selected process. Like for instance, if you were to select a CRM, then you have to look into their pros and cons. the current CRM that they are using, what type of issue they are facing. Okay, when they are facing the issue, what are the pros and cons? Similar, like the earlier in McDonald's, I'll give you a number for you to wait for your what you call that, the delivery of your food and so on. So a lot of time people don't like that, because why? They have to stand there and wait, and then become crowded and crowded at the cash register. So what they did is that they changed the format. They add in the kiosks and so forth based on the people's command and so on. They change it to kiosks. But nowadays it's not just only kiosks. Kiosks also sometimes they actually have issue like lying down. They actually can't click. They click, the whole system hang and so on. Then they will actually either go for the alternative back to the cashier and so on. So you see, that's why I said today they still have a cashier there. No matter how you change it into a new system, they still have a cashier. See, all these are the pros and cons that you'll be able to identify, right? How they can make the changes and how changes are actually being done. Now, the issue highlighted must be related to analytic topic. So we actually, MGT 212 is an analytic subject. So that's why it's best possible to actually relate them into your analytic topics rather than just be as a business topic or marketing topic as well. That's why you see the examples that are given to you just now on McDonald's, we also relay back on the customer complaint. The customer complaint is where the analytics is all about, right? How you can actually seize that, how you can actually play around with it so that you can actually get results. That's why in the group assignment, it's not on statistical report. We did not need you to do into the last number, right? You only need to know about the process. You only need to know whether it's related to the analytics or not, how they actually apply and how they actually use them. All right. Now, that is the analysis of issue. The next one is the implementation of project plan. Okay, this is where it comes into your next, what we call that part, which is the implementation of project plan. So where this carry out, this is where you actually have it in your third session, the implementation of project plan after the analysis. So what is actually tabulated in the format and contents, they tell you that in the current, in the formulated a process strategy. Now, just now the same examples like McDonald's, where they actually have a lot of people in the cashier counter. So what they did is that they moved a new kind of ordering system called the kiosk that they actually implement. So the implementation of this project plan could be a kiosk, all right? But then it says that, sir, you already have mentioned that they already have kiosks, they already have a cashier. So how if I wanted to implement new things? Yeah, the implementation of new things maybe falls into the part like instead of kiosk, they go into the QR code, the table ordering. I told you that this is a new options that they have on each of their customer table. They have a QR code there, and then they can actually scan on. This is where you see that the implementations comes in. That's why I say McDonald's actually have almost the full sets of things that they have available. Right? They actually look into all kinds of circumstances and so on. Now, yeah, student asked me before, can I use the very same thing into this company that I'm actually researching? I did not say yes or I did not say no. All right. It's all entirely up to you how you actually recommend it. All right. And also check with your lecturer whether your lecturer accept that or not. If your lecturer says it's fine, okay, as long as it's not copied from the article directly, all right? Like for instance, if you're using McDonald's and you put it as this QR code, meaning that you already copied, all right? You actually have done some copy and paste from other articles and put in because they already have implemented. You can actually put it into something else which is not recommended. Okay, maybe any other fast food chain which you do not have a QR code and so forth. Yeah, you can actually recommend that and so forth, right? But then again, please check with your lecturer on all this, all right? Whether uh, your lecturers accept it or don't accept it, all right? So these are some of the things that you need to identify, and also some of the things that students actually have done wrongly, all right? Now let's see what you actually have in here, right? In this part, we call the implementation of project plan. Okay, formulate and propose a strategy. Okay, for example, again, you see, I also put down there data mining process, life cycle, cost benefit, and so forth. Please don't ask me again, sir, do I need to put every single things of this? Please. That's why I put down here as not asking you to write all the above. Okay, you can pick up any of this, or you can don't put in any of this as well. As long as you know how to explain your strategy, how to improve them. Okay, this is where you actually propose something which is not there. Okay, or you can actually improve what they already have there. Like for instance, from the kiosk itself, you upgrade to the table ordering as well. So this is where the examples, but you can, if you understand what is called data mining process, because why? There are too many customers have actually complained. From the complaint itself, you'll be able to rectify that. How can be reducing that? This is where data mining process is all about, to check whether people likes it or people don't like it, right? A life cycle, it could be a things that you can change. Like for instance, from a process, you change into a better process. All right, there can be also a life cycle, a cost benefit to reduce manpower. You actually put in AI, or you put in things like automation with kiosks and so forth, auto payment, e-wallet, and so on. All these have become part and parcel of cost benefit kind of analysis. Impact analysis. If I'm going to put in this one, who will get impacted? Okay, all this is part and parcel that if you wanted to propose a strategy, or you're going to propose an improved kind of strategy. Now, we did not ask you to put into the dollars and cents, how much you should spend for the investment and so on. No, it's just only an idea. The idea may or may not work. It's not important. The important part is that you have an idea to tell that what can be improved from here and so on. Okay, so this is where the implementation of the project plan. So once you actually get that, a proper plan should be developed. Not compulsory for you to create a step-by-step kind of plan. Like for instance, you can just generally or briefly mention that, oh, the QR code, the table ordering QR code, how it works. That's all. You no need to put into details and say that step 1, you need to invest into a step 2, you need customer to put in into their own handphone the application so that they can scan the QR code and so forth. You no need to put it into a detailed plan, right? All you have to know is just to put down your planning of what you wanted to do. Because why? When you actually have a QR code ordering, definitely when you scan on the QR code, you will be diverted to the application, or you're diverted to the website that you will link to your ordering system. So this is where it meant, okay, you no need to put in step 1 that need to do, step 2 need to do. Okay, it's not compulsory. If you think that you wanted to put that as your implementation project plan, by all means, but you also need to understand you have a number of words limitation. All right, so that's why I say is that from the beginning, the first point that you look into is the number of words that you have, and then you look into what kind of things that you wanted to analyze. The first thing is that if you want to analyze CRM and SCM, how many wordings that I need to involve, right? And then what are the strategy plan that I need to propose? Cannot be I be proposing one strategy for one system. So when it comes to implementation of project plan, this is where you're going to find which one will be the best for you to create the strategy out. That's why you see, as a group member, you should actually sit in together and discuss about this, a brainstorming. You see that which point will be the most point that you can discuss. If the most point that you can discuss, take that as your write-up for your project. You see, this is how you actually do brainstorming within the group. This is what collaborating in group is all about. I also realized that a lot of time what students did is that if let's say 5% in the group, they will separate into, you will be doing the part 1, you do part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Because why? You have exactly 5 group of 5% in a group, and you have only 5 sections. Each one of you pick one group, one section to write. And this is actually not good, right? It's not good. When a group, you have to do it in the entire group itself to understand each other, what are the thinking that you have to build out your group strategy. All right. So this is where the implementation of project plan, a lot of students have done careless mistake. Justification of proposed strategy. This is where the next session, okay, that actually shows on here, the justification, where it says that consider the benefit and drawback of proposed strategy. Now, a lot of students actually did ask me, sir, benefit and drawback again, meaning the pros and cons. I thought the pros and cons we already have done in the earlier session under the analysis of issue. Yes, true. Now, the analysis of issue, you'll be only talking about the SEM or the CRM or the HRM or the AIs that they have. But when you come to justify your proposed strategy, where's your proposed strategy? Is where your implementation of your project plan. I do not know what you actually have proposed. And this proposes where you look into whether that particular proposed strategy is good or bad. You need to actually identify the good and the bad of that particular proposed strategy. It could be, yes, the benefit is that you will actually have more customer to come in or more satisfied customer. But then again, the drawback is what? It could be the investment that you have to put in a lot of money, okay, to invest and so forth. So that's why when coming to the justification of proposed strategy, you need to have these few things identified. All right. So this is where you be able to consider the benefit and drawback of the proposed strategy. Now, the next thing is that you need to look into investigate the adaptability of the proposed analytic program. Like for instance, when you already propose something, all right, a new things inside, you need to know the adaptability as well, which is actually involving things like analytic. So why adaptability have involved into analytics is that you need to know whether the proposed strategy that you propose in, it can be adapted by your customer or not. It can be adapted by your staff or not. So in the other words, you have to look into the internal and external as well. And this is where the analytics comes in, because you need to calculate to see whether they accepted it or they don't accept it. Because why? Like for instance, if you're going to invest and then you need to do a lot of things, definitely the customer won't be happy with it. Now, let's put into the example of McDonald's again, from cash register to kiosk. And then the next example, the proposed maybe put in things like the QR code table ordering. All right. Now, when you have a QR code table ordering, can the customer adapt to it? I'm not talking about adopting. I'm talking about adapting. Comfortable or not, whether customer know how to use or not. See, if the customer do not know how to use, you need to train the customer. And if the customer felt a little bit troublesome, customer won't use it. You see, this is where you'll be able to identify the good and bad, the benefit and the drawback that you actually have on that particular application or the proposals that you actually have put in. So this is where you need to justify based on the proposed strategy. All right. Now, the last part is your recommendation. Now, when it comes to your recommendation, so what you actually have, let's see. Recommendation. Conclude all findings and proper recommendation are included. Now, let's see. What careless mistake actually students have in recommendation? Conclude all findings, proper recommendation, and include further action, if any. No. So in the other word means that students supposed to do a recommendation rather than do a conclusion. So a lot of time, what student did is that they do a conclusion of their part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Now, in line of business, if you actually do recommendation, means that you actually put in your decision making, what kind of proposal that you have. So it's best that when you do your proposed strategy, you have more than one proposal. Maybe QR code is one of them, or like for instance, the McDonald's one. The McDonald's examples, they already have kiosks, let's say. QR code is one of them. And also they're going to your APP. So in the other word, you actually have two type of recommendation. One is the APP, second comes into the QR code ordering. But then again, when it comes to your recommendation, is which one is more important? Which one is more priority? Which one is much more comfortable or capable of settling the issue that you actually have found out in your section 2, your analysis. So that's why in your recommendation itself is where you're going to make a decision to recommend which one to go first. Let's say, for instance, in the examples of McDonald's, I wanted to recommend the QR code ordering first. So that's why in the recommendation, I will put in the QR code. When it comes to the future action, I will put in that in future, they can also incorporate it into the APP. So in the other word, they can actually create a APP, because create an APP maybe take longer time or more expensive. Okay, so that's why you put it into the further action. See, this is where you identify your recommendation for your proposal. So with all this is where in the real world, company will actually look into. They'll look into the introduction of your proposal. Okay, then identify the issue that they have, and then comes to your proposal strategy, your justification, and then look at your recommendation. In real world, a lot of managers will actually look straight away in the recommendation first, because why? We do not require you to put in any single dollars of cents, right? But in the real life, when you come to recommendation, is where you put in the dollars and cents. Which one is cheaper? Option 1, option 2, option 3. 3 are different kind of proposal, and 3 have different kind of pricing. So you're going to put down on which one you're going to recommend. The bosses will actually look at the recommendation first. If the figure is comfortable, then only they'll start looking into your other part, like your proposals and so forth. Definitely the analysis of issue, they already know. They know what issues that the company already faced. They will come into your proposal and see what kind of proposal that you actually put into, and then how you justify them. If it's acceptable, straight away your project will be accepted. If not, it will be rejected. So that's why you see the recommendation part is totally different from the conclusion. It's not asking you to wrap up and conclude what you find. It's actually do a recommendation. That's why you see the recommendation and conclusion is the part that a lot of actually students have made a mistake. Okay, there were actually things that the recommendation is the conclusion. All right. So submission, just now we already have mentioned, some of the issue, like for instance, hard copy should not be submitted as hard copy. Did not do declaration, especially the AI acceptance form, which you are talking about the 20% allowed, right? It's a must to actually do that. Wrong files format submitted. Remember just now I highlighted and tell you that it must be doc files and so forth. A lot of students, what they do is that they submit it as a PDF file. Okay, but the system still accept, right? We still accept, but marks will be deducted. That's why you have to identify the marks of deduction. Okay, let's look back into the LMS. Okay, the part here on the rubric that we have on the question paper, you see that there's a lot of fixed deduction, right? Like late submission, okay, 10% per day, retabulated, turning in similarity, or the AI, okay, is anything above 20% will be actually deducted, all right? The deduction, depending on the board, okay? If the board says that they're going to deduct half of the marks and so forth, then we have to apply that, right? So under or over wording, most of the time it's over wording, under wording less, okay? So you have to be careful especially when it says that 2005 wording, try not to exceed. Try not to exceed. Even if you exceeded, the lecturer will actually give you something like about 10%. Okay, if let's say above 10%, then only we start deduction of every single month. And then it's already tabulated that will be based on 1%. So in the other way, if let's say you have above 10%, that means you have 11% of wording, we're going to deduct 11 marks, not starting after the 10%, because we already given you the percentage, okay, the totals of wording that you need to write. So that's why I try not to abuse them. All right, we give the 10% is because sometimes students have overlooked the subtitle, the figure or the table title or the citation and so forth. So all these added up should not be more than 10%. Okay. Then you also have what you call no grouping in LMS. Remember just now we did mention about no grouping. 5 marks will be deducted. Solo submission, meaning that if you do not find any group members, 10 marks will be deducted. Wrong submission, 2 marks will be deducted. So in the other word, try not to submit wrongly. So you have to be aware of all this because it's already tabulated in the question paper as well. Right? Now, overwording, just now we have said, did not insert citation. So mostly a type citation. That's why we ask you to submit as a, I call that a document file. Because in document file, we'll be able to identify whether it's an insert citation or a type in citation. This is where we actually identify whether you learn or you don't learn. Okay, what is called an insert citation, comparing to a type-in citation. All right. So did not fill up the reflective log. Some of you did not fill out reflective log as well. But you only need to have one reflective log for one group. All right. You do not need to write every single what I call that reflective log for every member. Okay, you only need to submit one reflective log per group. All right. So any questions for assignment group? Now I'm open up for question now. If you have any question, you can either type in or you can actually switch on your mic and you talk to me. All right. Any questions? Or you can raise your hand if you want to. If no question, we can continue. Or you want to have a 5-minute break, take a sip of a drink or your nice Vietnamese coffee before we continue. Yes, Chong. Yeah, Chong or Kong? We have no question, right? Okay,
No.
let's go. Okay, if no question, then we're going to continue. Okay. Let's look into the next part, which is your assignment individual. I think a lot of you having issue in assignment individual, all right? So let's see what your assignment individual will bring us into, all right? Okay, question requirement. Search the internet for a sponsored data set. This is, some student will ask, sir, what is this sponsored data set? All right. Sponsored data set, I think in the lab itself, I did put in 3 places that you can actually find data set. One of it is Kaggle. The second one is Tableau. And the third one is actually Google search, Google data set search. All right. So in the other word, that you can actually go to any of these places to find public data set. Okay. The sponsored data set means it's a public data set. As long as you do not need to pay to get a data set, or you do not need to create an account, okay, just typically to join their group to get what we call the data set, all right? Because some of the time that you actually join the group, they need you to pay, okay, for certain subscription, then only allow you to download and so forth. Try not to do that. That's why we discourage students to have this type of what you call that requirement from the website. So you go to the website like what we have given to you, Kaggle. Kaggle, you only need to sign in when you wanted to download. But make sure that when you download, those are free of charge. Kaggle is free of charge. You do not need to pay any single cent. So I will advise students to look for Kaggle. All right. Tableau, you can actually go in, but then you do not need to register as well because why? It's totally free, the data. Unfortunately, is that the Tableau data set is limited. All right. From day one that I'm using Tableau until today, Tableau have not updated any new data sets in their server yet. All right. So this is one of the reasons why I also didn't encourage students to use Tableau. Use Kaggle would be the best. All right. Kaggle is easy for you to find data sets and so on. All you have to do is just register your name. Okay. You can use the help identity to register, or you can actually use your UFM identity register, or if you don't like, you can also use your own personal name, okay, or email to register. It's totally free of charge. You can download any of the data sets that is available inside there. All right. So this is what I meant by sponsored data set. Now the question requires you to have at least 2 or 3 data sets. So in the other word, it's minimum 2 sets of data. So you need to have these 2 sets of data to be put into your Power BI to create your visualization and so forth. Later, we're going to discuss about the creation of visualization. Okay, and design your own meaningful information and visualization to support your analysis process. So create by using Power BI reports of your finding, and then it should include the following topics. So whatever that you're going to do, your reports have to follow topics. First slides will be a description of your analysis purposes. Okay, what is the purpose that you need to do this? So that's why you see the requirement, as it says, is 15 slides, right? So let's put in this way. The first slide is where you're going to put in the what we call title page and so forth. Who are you and so on. The second will be a description of your analysis purposes, why you want to do this analysis. Third, you put in the data set, okay, where your data set come from and so forth. So the combined data of multiple sources, and you must clean them. So the clean data means that you need to do the ETL process. Remember, I told you the ETL that I'm going to explain inside here. Yeah, your ETL process is what? Is where you actually do the extract, transform, and load it. All right. So this is what I call ETL. So what is ETL? Okay, I think in your lab 3, if I'm not mistaken, either lab 2 or lab 3, that you actually learn how to do cleaning. All right. That is your lab 3, I think. Okay. So you're going to do some cleaning of the data. That is where ETL comes from. But then in your Power BI, how you use this ETL, this is where you actually use your Power Query. The Power Query is where you'll be manipulating with your data, that you actually add in data, delete data, or you delete the row and so forth and so on. Or you can combine the data and so forth. So this is where the ETL process, when you actually do your data set. So once you've done your data sets, then only you come to your BI reporting, where you have to do 2 different type of reporting. One is your dashboard. The second one is the reports. Okay. And you see that there's requirement for 1 dashboard and 2 reports. All right. Dashboard definitely will be 1 only. There will be no 2 dashboards. All right. There's only 1 dashboard. And of course, they need to have 2 reports as a minimum. You can create 3, 4, 5 reports. It's up to you. But then 2 reports is the minimum, because you have 2 data sets, you do 2 reports. All right. Now, outcome of the process, the proposed analysis. So in the other word, from the dashboard, from the reports itself, you create the analysis outcome. So what you see from them, what you actually derive, and you wanted to put in the results, all right? And then this is where the slide comes in. First, your title page. Second, your description, data set, already in 3rd slide. Your dashboard, 1 slide. Your reports, 2 slides. You already have 7 slides. Outcome, 8 slides. All right. Then you can actually put in the references or thank you, or in it's less than 10 slides only. All right. So that's why I say it's all depending on how you're going to put it in and so forth. Now you're talking about 10 slide, definitely will be less than 3 megabyte. If you create natively direct from Power BI. But if we actually use Canva and so forth, it will become bigger and bigger, the file, right? Now, you need to do a presentation of what you actually do on the analysis, all right? The presentation must be included things like your demonstration, all right? How you use it and so forth. And you have to show your face, right? So this is the requirement of the question paper. Now, what are the careless mistake actually most of the student actually faces? Like for instance, the introduction itself, no details identified. You put the first title page, you just put in things like McDonald's analysis. So what kind of analysis that you're actually doing? It's not put up properly, right? You have to put a little bit of briefing about the title and also the student names and so on. Now, I found out that most of the slide there is no narration. And then I think the question is also put up that you have to put in the narration to identify each of the slides. Like for instance, what you're going to talk about. Because sometimes you only show that particular visualization. You only show one word as a proposer. But I think, what are you proposing? Are you just telling me that when you do your presentation, that time you only say that word introduction? Cannot be, right? So you'll be actually saying that the purpose of it, why you actually look into it, and so forth. So this is where your narrations comes in, and where your narration should put into. You know that in your PowerPoint, all right, there is something called notes, all right, on the application itself, right at the bottom line, you see there's a notes there. You can click on the notes. You see that you will push up the screen a little bit, and then you can put your notes and so forth in there. So with the notes and so on in there is where I will actually print out into a what we call handout copy under notes, so that we can actually put remarks underneath it. And then we'll be able to see what you wanted to explain based on each of the slides that you have. So this is where the narrations comes in. Okay, second, the analysis purposes. Okay, let's go back to the LMS. Okay, let's look into the assignment individual. So in the assignment individual, this is where you actually have the student warning and so forth. There you'll be able to see, right? Your introduction, your analysis purposes. Describe the purpose and objective of your analysis. Then you have your data set selection, your so forth. All right, let's look into the part that we wanted to talk about. Okay, in analysis purposes, no explanation. Yeah, sometimes you just put down the reason you want to look into the purpose is that getting better reply or getting higher income. So no explanation. That's why you see your narrative, you have to put down the explanation about all this. This is where the notes comes in, the narration notes and so forth. Loosely connected to the research. Now, a lot of time when end of the day, the research that they've done is not related to their analysis purposes. Now, see, sometimes students put in 3 or 4 purposes. Then when I actually go through the answer, okay, the analysis they've done is just only 2. What happened to the other 2 more? See, it must be tally. Now, a lot of students say that, sir, when we create the analysis purposes, the time we put in this, but then when we do the finding, we only found 2. So you have to create the analysis purposes later. You do your analysis first. End of the day, you only found two results. Put that 2 result into your analysis purposes. So in the other word means that you can actually do the reverse. You see, you are not doing it. You are not doing the presentation slide beforehand, right? You actually do all the results first, then only you compile and put it in. That's why your analysis purposes should tally with your finding, right? So you have to learn how to do that. That's why loosely connected to the research and also finding. Number of items proposed must be tally with your report's finding. That's what I told. You see, when you put in the purposes got 4, but then end of the day, you only get 2. So in other words, this is where you're going to lose mark on your, what you call that, your purposes. Now, next come to data set. The data set actually have also quite a number of issues that student actually faces. Yeah. Okay, let's look into the here. Okay, under data set selection, students are required to select a 2 data set, all right, and so forth. Must be credited. The data set should be contain sufficient amount of information to do the analysis to draw the meaningful insight in the finding. Okay, let's see what are the issues that student actually faces. Okay, here are some of the issues, okay, that students actually face. All right, let's see. The first one, no URL. It's already mentioned in the question paper that compulsory to put in the URL so that we know that where your data come from. All right, you submitted everything, but then you've forgotten to put in the URL. So this is one of the reasons why I told students it's best that when you have a slide to discuss about your data set, put in the URL there rather than you put in at the end of your slide. Because a lot of time the student actually wanted to make it much more better looking is that they put all the references and the URL at the end of the slides, but sometimes you overlook. So that's why it's best that you actually put into a slide called data set, and then you put in this is the data set that you're going to use and it's from this URL, so that we can actually click in to check whether the data sets that you collected are from that particular URL. So unable to access the URL. Yeah, sometimes when you copy and put in the URL was not properly inserted. So when we click, you get 404. So error 404 means what? Can't find the data set, right? So this is also sometimes that you actually refaces. Sometimes when you copy the URL and put it into your answer, then when we click on that particular URL, we are not authorized to do so. What happened? So the other way, you did not share it out properly. So that's why some of these, how you're going to practice that? It's best that you actually put down those URL and so forth already, then you send it to your classmate. I know you have study partner, right? You send it to your classmate, ask your classmate to click, see whether they can click or not. If they can click, good. So in the other word, it's run well. All right. General URL provided. Yes, this is one of the issue. Right? I think one of your students have put in Kaggle, right? Yes, Kaggle. Yeah, let's put into the example as Kaggle, all right? This issue. Now, when I click on this general, all right? So this is what you actually show me. When I click on that, it show me here, Kaggle.com. What you expect me to do? Go and find which is your data set? Cannot be, right? So that's why I say, when you actually have that data set to that particular data, make sure you copy it correctly. Let's say, for example, if let's say this is the, okay, let me see which one. Okay. Now, let's say the student give me this URL. Make sure that you copy the whole entire URL, all right? Copy them and paste it into your answer, right? So you'll be able to come, when I click, you'll be able to come here and I'll be able to see that, these are the data set and so forth, right? So this is where we identify whether the data is correct or wrong, all right? Now, make sure don't give me the general URL. Okay, mismatch URL. Yeah, how to mismatch URL? Yeah, sometimes when you actually ask us to click, this is where your data set come from. But when we look into your PIBX, the data set are from different places. Right. This is also one of the issue that we actually faces. Okay. The URL that you actually click is different from the URL that you use in your assignment. All right. So you have to be very careful on that as well. Unable to determine the originality of the integrity of that particular data set. This is very cute. Why we actually have this? Okay, let's go back to just now the example that I show you in the Kaggle. Like for instance here, Kaggle Play Store apps. Okay, this is all the written things and so forth. You'll be able to see that Google Play Store.csv. So you download this, right? This is what you normally do. You click on download, get that file. It's supposed to be Google Play Store.csv. But sometimes students just wanted to make sure that this is from me. So I put down there AlanYap.csv or AlanYap-Google Play Store.csv. Now, if you're going to do that, means that you are telling me that you have altered the original data. So that's why you see, this is where we actually put down there as the originality is not there. All right. So we already advise and tell students, please do not change anything, because this is business analyst ethic. We should not change anything of the original data and so forth. You should be actually just use them, all right? And you wanted to make changes or you want to manipulate with the data, go to your ETL process, not changing it physically from the original data. By changing the name itself is considered no originality already, all right? Now, second thing, when I put down the remark says integrity. Why? Because the original file is Google Play Store.csv. And when I receive that file that you submitted, the data set is called Google Play Store.xls. Why are you saving your CSV into a Excel file? So you see, this is where we'll be able to identify some of the issue that students actually have done careless mistake, especially on the originality and also the integrity of the data set. All right, this is very important because why? We as a analyst, okay, a business analyst and so forth, we have to practice our what we call the ethic. We should not be actually doing something which is not ethical. All right, now next. Synthetic data. What is synthetic data? Not real data. They're fake data and so on. We also have fake data. I also receive dummy data, sample data, or even data used in classes. So in the other word, we already have some sample there, like for instance, best play for retirement, all right? And then you also have what we call Superstore. Please don't use all this for your assignment. All right, don't use it for your assignment individual and do not use it for your final as well. Okay, let's see what you have here in fake data. How do we actually identify that particular is a fake data? Now, this is where I had to ask students to learn how to read this, all right? How to read them properly and so forth, especially this. Is it legitimate? Sir, it's from Kaggle, it's legitimate. And he's talking about iPhone prices in country-wise. It's legitimate. Yes, I know it's legitimate. I know it's actually somebody have created it by the name of Anurag. When is it actually updated? 5 years ago. In the other word, this is already done 5 years ago, and this person, the author, actually have put it down and so forth. You have to learn how to read whether the data is valid or not valid. This is why I say is that we learn along the way when we see whether we actually use the data or we use the information from the real world or not. Now, let's look into it. This data set contain iPhone 11 prices country-wise along the GDP and taxes. Is it legitimate? Very legitimate. All right. If you ask me, there's nothing wrong here. Now, about the data set. The data set was created by myself to study what? The revenue of Apple, okay, gets by selling iPhone in different countries. So in the other word, it means that this person, the data set that you have here, is not the original data set. He or she, okay, created that. So when it's created, it's a fake data. It's a synthetic data. Right? So it should not be actually used into your assignment. So in the other word, we are actually teaching you to look into the real world. Some of the data are fake data, some of the synthetic data, some of the sample data, and so forth. All these should not be used in your future work. Because why? You would not give you an accurate amount. You will not give you an accurate results and so forth. You give you a false prediction and so on. So it's best that you learn, okay, from now how you actually looks into this type of data. All right. So the next one is the dummy data. Okay. Let's see what dummy data will look like. Okay. Also legitimate. Okay. Updated a year ago. Wow. This is very new. Okay. Average time spent by a user on social media sounds legitimate because it's average time and various aspects of people spending time on social media. But when you say social media, which country, or is it referring to? No, right? It was not mentioned inside here. Now, let's look. This is a dummy data. So when you see that it's a dummy data, means that it's a creation by this author. It's not an actual data. It's just only a dummy data. We do not know whether the data is correct or not correct. Right? So try not to use this type of data.
Is apportionment.
Okay. So this is where we actually see that some of the things that students should learn to view. All right. Like synthetic data, fake data, dummy data, and also sample data. All right. Now, missing or unused data. Yeah. How I say missing? They actually put in two data together with the submission, but then from the PIBX, I don't see any of the data or have more data than what is submitted. So you see, all this is where some of the careless mistake we're able to identify from the data set, okay, that the students actually have misdo or confused or didn't do it properly. Now, let's come into the dashboard. So what is the main issue that dashboard that you have? Okay, let's look into the questions here. All right, in the questions here, dashboard, students are required to design one item only, one dashboard only, right? So the dashboard should include the combination of chart, graph, and other visual elements to affect the summary or the overview. See, summary or the overview. If I'm not mistaken, in your lab 3 itself, you learn how to create the overview. And also, we did say that the overview is also well known as what we call the dashboard. All right, so let's look into the issues that or the mistake that students actually done. No relationship between the selected data set. So how do we know that whether the data set is selected or not selected? All right, so this is where we actually have an examples. Okay, later on I'm going to show you the some student examples. Okay, give me a minute where I load it up so that you can actually see the student examples. How we can actually see whether the student actually have done it correctly or they do it correctly, right? Okay, what is loading? Let's look into the next things that you have. Similar visualization in the reports, okay? And then also done with Power BI services, did not share the link, okay? And unable to access the link even if it's provided. So make sure that when you do your dashboard, okay, try not to use the Power BI services dashboard. I know that in Lab 4, we did actually learn how to use the Power BI services to create dashboard, right? So normally what I tell students is that it's best that you actually create the dashboard inside your Power BI desktop as well. So it's much more easier for you to do the demonstration and so on. Okay, let's see. Okay, how do we actually be able to identify whether the relationship between the data set? Okay, this is what you can see. Okay, this is actually done by one of the student, but it's not your student, it's not your classmate. It's actually the student actually in here. So when we do the marking, how do we actually identify whether the students are actually using the same or not? Like for instance, here you have 3 data sets, right? They have annual, you have data, and you also have master. So in the data transformation here, I'll be able to click on the data source setting. So I'll be able to see that how many files that the student have submitted to me. You see, if let's say it's written there as data.csv, but when physically you submit the file, it's got data.xls. This is where we'll be able to identify the integrity of the data, all right? The originality of the data have been authored and so forth, all right? So that's why it's very related. A lot of things that we be able to identify and see, correct? Now you have 3 data sets here. This is the dashboard created or the dashboard overview of the economy. So when we click any of this data, the visualization, you actually highlighted as 1, all right? So we click the second one, you see that you have 2 different data being used. So in the other word, this is where the relationship between the data that the student have created. So in the other word, if every of your data visualization have more than 1 would be good. That means in all of these, you have created a relationship between them. Okay. Of course, in the syllabus itself, we did teach you to use the modeling, right? So like for instance, in these cases that you see that all 3 are actually linked up to each other, how do we know that whether this is linked up to each other? In the model itself, we'll be able to identify, right? This is where you see that all the files are linked up together, right? So this is the things that we'll be able to identify whether your dashboard are used correctly or not. But if let's say your dashboard, each one of them is from one data set itself, so in the other word, there is nothing different comparing to your dashboard. So in the other way, your dashboard and your reports are all single data. Like for instance, if let's say the whole entire here are using annual, all right? Then the second report you use data. The third report you use master. So in the other word, it means that there is no difference between your dashboard and also your report. So if from the dashboard itself, we cannot identify either this type of data set that is actually being used that you can combine them to create the result, you won't be able to get the good marks. So in the other word, this is where we actually identify that the students' creativity based on here, whether excellent or good or basic or just poorly done. So this is where we actually put in the students. Yeah, I didn't say that you cannot have dashboard only with one data. But if let's say one data itself, you'll be based on basic visualization because you have minimum details or moderate insight. You don't actually have a good insight of what it called dashboard. Remember, when we discuss dashboard, it's supposed to be the summary or the overview of your reports, meaning that the data should be used from your both reports to create the dashboard. All right. So this is where the meaning of what you call no relationship with them. Okay. Similar visualization is that let's say you have pie chart, also having the same pie chart. Then you have what you call a histogram. So if all of them is the same, so you won't get a high marks, you get a basic marks and so on. All right. So done in Power BI services, you should share the link. And if you don't share the link, we won't be able to identify your dashboard come from. Right. So if let's say we won't be able to identify a dashboard come from, you will get a minimum marks from the basic. That's all. We cannot go anything above the basic marks. All right. Same goes for reports, similar visualization with dashboard. That's why it says that if let's say your dashboard and reports have a different kind of visualization to explain different kind of finding, is good. But if let's say you use the reports and just put that particular visualization to put into your dashboard, you won't get good marks in your dashboard. You only get basic marks, right? So in the other words, your dashboard and your reporting visualization should be a different kind of objective, right? I mean, a different kind of explanation or different kind of representation in your visualization. So the visualization, same with other reports. So in the other word, maybe your dashboard itself, you created different kind of visualization, but then your report 1 and report 2 have identical kind of visualization. Yeah, student will tell me, sir, my report 1, I'm talking about US, so I'm talking about that GDP and so forth. So when I talk about China, definitely I'll use back the same. Am I right? No, you can use differently. You can don't use the same kind of visualization, right? So this is where we actually identify whether the student practices and understand how to use all these type of visualizations or not. All right. True field visualization. Then, sir, how many visualization should I put into the reports then? Definitely more than one. You cannot be just explaining that particular reports using one visualization only, right? That's why if you use that, you won't be actually get a good marks. You'll be actually getting a basic marks and so on. So it's best that you must have two at least, right? Two visualization for report 1, 2 visualization for report 2, right? So this is where you'll be able to identify whether the student able to do or not to do. Now, not related. How do you mean by not related? Yeah, your report 1 and report 2 are totally not related at all. Yeah, I have students who actually answered the question where you actually put two different data sets, but two different data sets have no relation to each other, and you are actually creating that particular result out as report 1 talking about, let's say, McDonald's. Then the report 2, you are talking about war zone. Now, you see, these two things do not relate. You are not actually doing two different kind of objective in your question paper. You are actually using one question, all right, to create two different objectives from that particular company that you have. You are not creating two. So this is something that amazed me when I saw the student actually do two different kind of finding inside one report, right? So some students do that. Okay, use different data set provided, like just now I mentioned. The data that you use is let's say data.csv, but then when you submit, you actually give me another data set, not data.csv. You're giving me different data set, which is not there at all. So you are using different kind of data set that provided to be used in your finding. Outcome. Now, after you come to the reports, you have something called the outcome. So outcome mention what? The outcomes is where your analysis of outcome, okay, what you should do, what is the things and so on. Inside here, so we did mention that the outcome is where the in-depth analysis of the data, insightful explanation to support your visualization. So to support the visualization, it's best that you can have some of the visualization that you have done along the way. So in the other word, you can also pick up something from the dashboard, or you pick up something from the reports to put into your supportive answer. Now, like for instance, your purpose, you have two purpose. Your outcome must have two outcome as well, because that two outcome is where you actually find the result to support your purpose, right? So this is where your analysis purpose must be the same kind of outcome that you produce, right? So this is where some of the students actually have done wrongly, all right? Not wrongly, careless mistake. unable to identify any supportive visualization, just write answer only, just telling you, oh, this is the answer and so forth. But where is the supportive visualization? Where you actually support them. That's why a lot of time students actually score half of the marks only rather than actually score in a good marks. If applicable, provide prediction visualization. So I would not know you, okay, as of today, you're supposed to do your final already. How many of you actually explore? How many of you know how to create prediction visualization? I think in the Lab 4, we also ask you to do exploration, especially prediction visualization was not covered in the syllabus. You are supposed to go and explore to find what is prediction visualization. Among all the visualization in the Power BI, there's only one visualization can do so, all right? Which visualization? I don't think so. Your lecturer is going to tell you, neither do I, all right? So you have to find it out yourself, explore into deeper which one is actually called the prediction visualization. How you can do that? Actually, it's very simple. Just one click itself be able to create the result. But if you cannot find the result and you wanted to create your own prediction result, yes, you can do so. Okay, you can also use the ETL process. In the other word, from the ETL process, look into your data set. You can add in new variables into your data set so that you can actually create the prediction out. So this is where you actually goes into your ETL, add in a column into whichever data set that you wanted, or you wanted to duplicate a new data set out and put in the results. Or you wanted to combine two different results into a new data set, all right, and then create the result. But of course, it's depending on your creative mind. I didn't say that it's a compulsory for you to combine the data set, but then you also learn how to do combined data set in your Lab 4. Right? So all this given you an idea how you can actually use the ETL to do creation, do addition, and also how to do prediction. So all this is part and parcel of a creative mind. And you will be asking, sir, why not all these are put into the syllabus itself so that you can actually learn how to create them? So if you were to do that, to ask you to do the creation, will you be actually learning what they call creative mind? Because creative mind is hard to create a syllabus out. Because creative mind is depending on the student, what kind of creativity they can think of based on the skill set that you have learned. That's why you see, we actually encourage you to practice more, especially on the application itself, to practice more and more so that you can actually create this type of what I call the outcomes that you wanted. So this is the outcomes that is supposed to be produced by the student itself. Now we come to the last part called demonstration. Now, no or basic demonstration means what? You only have your slides and there is no demonstration as well. You actually create a slide, you put in the visualization of your dashboard, just copy and paste inside. And then when you do the presentation, you just run through the presentation and tell this is a graph, this is a pie chart, this is what to tell and so on. There is no demonstration. But when you look at the rubric that we actually created for you, right? The rubric says what? The rubric says demonstration of the reports and the platform features of Power BI. So in the other word, meaning that when you do the demonstration or the presentation, you have to move on from your, remember that how many slides you have, right? The first slide is where you actually tells about your introduction. The second line, the slide will tell you about the analysis purposes. Then you talk about the data set. Then when it comes to the dashboard, you jump into your Power BI. So when you goes into your Power BI, okay, then you start demonstrating about your reports. Like for instance, you focus in and tell him this is what kind of results, and then this is what kind of results, and so on. Okay, this is where the lowest result. This is where you actually do the presentation using the Power BI. So this is where you need to learn how to do demonstration this way. All right, this is what called demonstration. So when it comes to demonstration, some of them I do not have, and some of them also not showing their face when doing the recording. So this is very pretty bad. As what is required, you need to show your face when you do your presentation. Because I see that some students don't even put in their face. They don't even actually show their icon as well. Some students, what they do is that they actually show their face, but then they cover most of their face. Whether you have phobia in looking into the camera or what. So in the other word, when you actually doing the presentation, I only see your forehead. Some of them only see one side of your ear only. I can't even see your face. So in the other, you're not showing your face. You're actually doing a demonstration. I don't know whether the demonstration is done by you or not. So this is one of the reasons that you do your recording, make sure that you have your face in the center and you're actually looking at the monitor and telling me what you are actually showing and so on. Now, I don't want pre-recorded kind of presentation. So what is pre-recorded? A lot of students, what they do is that they actually created the PowerPoint and then they do the recording inside the PowerPoint and then they submit that particular result. I think this is what we actually tabulated in the requirement that students should use Microsoft Teams to do the live presentation rather than a pre-recorded. So pre-recorded is not acceptable. Not well prepared. Yeah, a lot of time I see students are not well prepared. Why? Because they don't practice. Some are technical issue because when they switch from one to another, it takes time. Like for instance, even now also, when I switch to the next, okay, like now I'm actually doing the presentation here and tell you about the slide, then I can actually switch over to the Power BI and tell you what is actually Power BI and so on. Okay, then I can also switch over to the we call that our website to tell you what are the things that you're actually looking at and so on. So this is where you actually have to learn the practices, how to actually move around, okay, on your screen and so forth. All right, not well prepared. Most of the time, students actually do not practice them. All right, I want students to learn more about practices and so forth. Unable to open the MP4 file. So make sure the recording is actually done by Microsoft Teams without any add-in or filtering software. So you know it's got add-in and filtering software, right? Add-in and filtering software, some people actually put some filtering software so that it looks much more prettier. So that you won't look like what original you are. All right. And then CapCut is also one of the editing video. I know that a lot of you actually use that, right? Try not to use it, right? Don't edit any of your video. Then some of you will tell me that, sir, cannot because why? My video is too long. I want to shorten it and so on. That's why I say practices. When you do the recording and you try to explain and so forth, and you know that it's actually extend too long, redo again. You will say that, you waste a lot of time and so forth. This is what practices is all about, right? You have to learn how to practice all this to make sure that you are able to do what you're supposed to do, all right? So these are the few of the things that you need to learn how to get things done. No submission. Yeah, some of you didn't even submit the MP4. Some of you actually submitted the MP4, but it's totally cannot open. All right. So you have to be very careful when you do all this type of submission. Make sure that you know that what are you submitting and so on. All right. Now in submission, just now we already have mentioned not all files are submitted because some of the files required are not submitted and so forth. Did not declare and then also explain. Wrong file submission to turn it in. Yeah, turn it in is called PPT file and it's not PDF file. So you have to be very careful All right. So when you submit into your Turnitin, must be a PPT file. Now, this is a general issue and also brought up by one of your classmates, student without Windows platform. Yeah. I know that some of the students are using Apple. Okay. Unfortunately, this application only works in Windows platform, and we did not encourage to use other platform. Why? The reason? Because earlier I told you that I'm going to explain to you why we actually go for Power BI rather than use on other kind of platform, kind of analytic program. In this world, there are actually 80% of company are using Microsoft platform. All right. I know that not all organizations are actually using Power BI, but we encourage students to learn about Power BI because why? Power BI is free of charge, downloadable, and then you can use them. Now, unfortunately, some of the students are not using their Windows platform. They're using Apple platform. They are unable to do so. So far, only the Power BI services can be actually accepted by the Power BI. All right, you can use it in your web. So in the other word means that you can actually use your Mac to run your Power BI services. Now, the only differences is that you have to find a Microsoft platform to run when you do the changes or the whatever creation and so forth. You have to use the desktop version of your Power BI. So once you're done, everything is comfortable, then only you load it up into your Power BI services. I think in the lab 4, you also have learned about this, how to load up and so forth. And also from there itself, you'll be able to create a dashboard if you wanted to. Now, that actually give you a, we call that facilities for those people who are not using Microsoft platform. Once you upload it into your Power BI services, you can actually open the file. You can actually use the features of Power BI, like for instance, zoom in, zoom out. You actually use focus in and so on to show what you wanted to do and what you wanted to explain when you're doing your recording of your presentation. The only difference is that you cannot do editing. Like for instance, if you see something amiss you wanted to edit, you have to go back to Power BI desktop version. So this is the differences. Now, hopefully I can answer you. I already given you the answer and hopefully you can actually accept it, all right? So this is the reason why we use Power BI, okay? Now, common PC from campus. Okay, you can actually use a common PC for you to create or do the editing of your Power BI. But unfortunately, I also found out that most of the common PC are a bit weak, can't even load up the Power BI. Okay, and of course, a bit hard for me to request the campus to buy new PC for your common area, right? So that is depending on your university, how you're going to do that. So for the interim period, the only thing that I can request you is that talk to your classmate who is actually using Windows platform to borrow their unit to create your results. All right. Now, why I actually say so is that because your final also required Power BI to create your results. Your final, next week, I will actually explain on this, what you need to do and so on, okay, based on the questions and so forth. So today, I'm not going to talk about anything on your final because we are not supposed to expose what it's supposed to be. So the presentation and the demonstration of the assignment is where you'll be able to use your Microsoft Power BI services to do, especially those who are not using the Windows platform, right? You can actually have that load up into your Power BI services and then uses that to create your whatever recording, all right? Okay, back to Q&A. Anyone have any question to ask based on individual assignment?
Someone like Bushi. Okay.
Any question from any one of you? If no question, then I'll see you guys next week. And next week will be a longer session. Okay. Gonna explain quite intensive, quite a number of things in the final. Okay. And next week will be the same time again. Okay, from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. Vietnam time. Okay. And please look in the question, which is going to release on the Monday, 26th, and then post any question if you have anything to ask. Okay, after I've gone through the question paper and so on with you. All right. So if you have any doubt and so on, you can actually ask questions. Right. So for this itself, that's the end for this revision class. If any question, you can post it onto the Q&A, okay, or you can post it into the chat session. Right. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kong. Anybody else? Anyone have any question? Any doubts or anything that you are unclear? Yeah, you are free to post the questions in here, all right? Or you can also send an email to me and CC to your lecturer. All right. Thank you. Okay, if no, then I'll see you guys next week. All right. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher.
You're most welcome.
Hướng dẫn như này mình hướng dẫn làm chó thì
Rồi.
bữa nay là buổi này phải hướng dẫn đi
Cái câu trả lời được thầy thì trả lời bắt về câu hỏi.
Vâng.
Viết đề thì không biết là nó sẽ kiểu có giới hạn về topic không, phát là giới hạn topic.
Bị thuê rồi, chết mất. Không tự làm nữa đâu. Mệt lắm rồi.
Bảo ước.
Tuyệt vời. Cái gì tao
Kiểm là có thể làm